Welcome back to another episode of Beyond Coaching. Got my friend Mitch Hull from the 3D Institute here with me again. Mitch, thanks for letting me con you into another conversation.
Always enjoy it.
All right, we're talking youth sports today. Everybody I talk to talks about how it needs to be fixed and a mess. You have a good idea on how we can start tackling it. Tell everybody what you're thinking.
Well, I know there's a lot of good ideas. There's a lot of good things out there. It's just that how do we put them into play is the question. And so what we need to start with is I don't say we start with the parents, because I think we have to start with our own programs, with our own coaches. I'll go one step higher, because I usually ask athletic directors this question. And I asked them this: first of all, are parents the disease or are they the symptom? Now, to figure that out, I ask the AD, I want you to think of the program at your school, the sport that's got the best culture. I don't want you to tell me it, just think which one's got the best culture. So you got it? Now I'm going to ask you this question. How many parent problems do you have with that sport? Most of them go, I don't have any, or hardly any. So, okay, are parents the disease or are they the symptom? Most of the time they're the symptom, because you start your club season, you start it and you have your parent meeting. I'm going to ask you, how many parents do you think are sitting there going, okay, how can I undermine this coach and my child's experience? No, there are some that are the disease. Most of them are a symptom of something. Right? And so let's start with this. If we can get the culture in our sport right, we're going to have a lot less parent problems. That doesn't mean we don't have a responsibility to help parents as well. In fact, if everybody out there that's listening to this, I want you to do this. First of all, raise your hand if you're a parent. Now I want you to keep your hand up when you left the hospital, you got the manual on how to raise your kids. I'm still looking for the manual, right? Parents need help too. They're on this journey with their child. So what can we do about this? Well, there's multiple facets. The first is our own, as a responsibility as a coach. We got to help parents value what we do beyond playing time. If we're not communicating with parents, if we're not doing things that help their child be a better person, then the only thing we're giving them to judge us on is playing time. That's the only thing left. And we all know this, especially if you're coaching a team sport where you have to make those decisions. There's never enough playing time to solve the issue. You can't do it with playing time. It's impossible. Because we know this, to give one kid more playing time, what do we have to do? What do we have to do? Take it from somebody else. Yep. That's the only way. It's a fixed number. And which is why AD Insider magazine did a survey and they asked ADs and coaches this question: when confronted by parents, it's normally about what? It's never taken a group of coaches longer than 2 seconds to tell me the number one answer. It's playing time. It's double the number 2, which was child's role on the team, which could be code for playing time, by the way. And then
yes, absolutely.
And then it was perceived favoritism, child complaining to the parent. And then there's 6 of them. The bottom 2 were this: my coaching strategy and knowledge, and then win-loss record. Now, the coaching strategy was 8%. Win-loss record was 4%. That's it. That's the other ones, uh, playing time was like 50% or better. So the key here is this was an aha for me to understand what's the case. It took a while, but then I looked at that and what is that survey telling us? It's telling us this. Every parent cares more about their child's experience than they care about the team's performance. Right or wrong, I'm not judging that. That is reality by a long shot. And so are we focusing on each one of those kids on our team? Are we focusing on their experience or are we just focusing on the game? Now, you still got to teach them the sport. I'm not downplaying that. You got to
Mhm,
do that well. But we will not be able to help parents navigate this world if their child's not having a very good experience on your team. So
mhm,
what I usually say is again, we're back to focusing on the journey, getting away from the destination and journey does not downplay that you don't go out there to play to win. However, in youth sports, we shouldn't be focusing to win. That's a difference. Because if I'm focusing to win, now you're only playing the best players. And I don't care that much who the best 9-year-old is or 10-year-old is. In boy sports, that's normally the person that just matured quicker, is usually the
mhm,
case. And in girls' sports, along the same lines, not quite as much because they'll mature earlier than boys do. But even they're not going to have a good time if they don't have great teammates. So I want you to be, if you want to navigate this world that these parents, many of them are navigating it with their child. We got to give them something more than a batting line statistic, a scoring per game statistic to judge the results by. In fact,
mhm.
we have to help parents to understand we need to downplay that. Even as mom and dad, you need to
Yeah.
downplay that. This needs
So
to be a
where do you start with them? Yeah, so
great.
where do you start with them? 'Cause
That mean,
I think something you said last time we just yes, talked about it was they don't know what they don't know, so how do we get them started?
yeah. If we don't help them, then all they have to judge is the result on Saturday morning if you're playing. That's it.
Mhm,
We need to help them first for your own benefit. At that parent meeting, you got to tell them how important winning is. You have to explain to them this issue in which means you need to be educated yourself. I know that if you're in the league, you're trying to win the league title. You need to explain to parents, we'll play that way. We'll try, but uh, the day after the league championships, nobody's going to care who the league champion was. Who cares? Who even knows what it was last year? Our responsibility is to help your child be better at this sport when they're done than when they started so that they'll want to play next year. If and if the research is clear and everybody quotes this statistic that first of all, what's the number one reason the kids play sport? By far triple anything else. Why? To have fun. To have fun. Second is to be with their friends, which ties to fun, by the way. Third is winning or learning the sport better. Winning doesn't make the top 10. Right? Where does it fit for us as a coach and parents, though? Where do we put it?
mhm,
That's the
mhm.
problem. We're taking this world of sport that, frankly, and winning and stuff that we don't handle that well as parents, and we're putting it down on our kids, and they're not ready for it. And they're telling us they don't even want it. Okay.
You know what
What we need to
you know what's
do is,
interesting is our so you know what's interesting on that point is our student athletes, we survey them every year. of what motivates them and they enjoy. Winning isn't in their top 5 either, even at the college level. So it's
And
relationship driven.
yep, it is. Now, certainly at the college level, they're committed to winning, but that's just the result. That's
Mhm.
a byproduct process,
The outcome.
not
Yeah.
a personal driven. You know that you get to that point. Yeah, I still love the sport, but I'm pretty dang competitive as well. Well, for young people, here's where I can go back to the sport I've been part of, is that we got national championships for 8-year-olds. The last thing an 8-year-old needs to be the national champion, because you know what that does? That adds pressure, is what it does. Before they need it. Uh, and when kids are wrestling, and this is what I started to notice, and we had one of our world bronze medalists, NCAA champion, changed how he did a kids tournament. And I think this is how we ought to run it, is that even if a kid got pinned when they're young, and they're 5, 6, 8 years, 9 years old, they didn't cry until they brought them together, shook hands, and raised the hand of the kid that won. That's when they started to cry. The kids started to cry. So what he did was they got done and he raised both kids' hands. Now we knew who won, who moves on, but he raised them both because it was this: hey, you're part of this sport. I'm glad you're doing it. Now, the other thing is if we handle this well, I've also watched those kids that cried 5 minutes later out there with their buddies eating ice cream, right? We need to handle it well and say, hey, that's all right. I just love watching you compete. Not as a parent, I need to tell them, hey, I just love watching you compete. I love watching you have fun. And then we have to model that as well. How you react is more important. And mom and dad, remember this: you need to react with your son or daughter the same way when they win or they lose. Not what you say, how you react. Because if I'm storming around and upset, if my 9-year-old who is ahead in a match, it's 8-0, and he got pinned or she got pinned in the third period, and I'm all storming around, how could you do that? This kind of stuff. You're now telling your child that they're more important to you when you win than when they lose. Even if you don't say those words, if you just kind of walk out and roll your eyes, what message are you sending? That's why 70% of kids before 12 will quit sport before they get to high school, because it's not fun anymore. They may even enjoy doing the sport, but it's not fun because of how mom and dad responds to what I do. They don't need Listen, kids don't need more pressure to win. They need tools on how to handle the stress that we talked about before. And then they need to know that mom and dad love me, period. Not more if I win. They just love me, period. You can do that. And there's almost no sport that you can get your child that they wouldn't want to try if they wanted to do it, because they're not afraid of how mom and dad are going to respond.
Yeah. Let me take us back to something you said a second ago. You talked about you start with a parent meeting. And I think whether it's the college level down to the youth level, I think coaches, they won't say it, but I think they're intimidated and scared of a lot of parents. So what would you say in that parent meeting? Like, how would you address it? And how would you advise coaches on ongoing communication?
Great question. Because you have, and I want you to spend as little time as possible about the rules, about the code of conduct you may want parents to sign, about the scheduling, because all of that can be communicated via email. See, email is in that kind of, it's great for information, and that's what that is. But it sucks for communication. So in my parent meeting, I'm going to get that aside. Then I say, here's what I really want to touch base on. First, are you clear as a coach on why you coach? What's your purpose? Give them your purpose. You know, I I why do I coach? I coach to help young boys and girls learn the skills through sport that will help them be successful and significant in life. That's why I coach. Right? Then you want to be able to, then you need to tell them your story. Everybody has a story. The more you learn about somebody, the more you get to know them, the better you're going to, more margin you're going to give a coach. Tell your story in 45 seconds or less. Right? And in 3D coaching, we've got some stuff that we kind of will give you examples of stories, but there is no story better than another. Right? It's just your story. Right? Now we need to talk about it with young people. If you're a youth coach, you need to let them know how important winning is. Like if I'm a middle school, if I'm a like even if I'm a JV coach in high school, I would even say in varsity for someone, I need to explain to the parents and my athletes how important winning is in JV, which it goes into the not category. And here's why. And by the way, if you don't explain it, then you're leaving it up to them. I remember a few years ago, my granddaughter was on the JV volleyball team, and they were in every match. I mean, they went 3 sets all the time, but they didn't win many of them, and she was frustrated at the end of the year. You know, we should have won a lot more and that, and my response was, I said, "You know what? You guys could have won probably every match this year. I really believe that, but, you know, if that would have happened, only 9 girls would have played. That's it. You got 15. Mm, if you wanted to if winning was important, only 9 girls would have played. Now we wouldn't have known if those other girls might have been part of your varsity team in 3 years, right? This is about is the JV coach, even as a youth baseball, this is about your son, youth softball, your daughter, learning this sport and getting better. If we wanted to win in Little League, as a coach, we're gonna stand there and not swing the bat because it's highly likely that kid can't get 3 strikes over before he gets 4 balls. It's just the how much better did my athletes get standing there with their bat on their shoulder? They didn't get better at all. Okay. I'm gonna say, I want your son, even if it's swinging at a ball, I want him to swing because when they do, we can now see what we can work on. By doing that, we will win less games. So let's all be proud of that. Let's refocus on this. Because I have, it's even in high school. And if anybody seeing this can send me a picture, I would love to have it because I've yet to see a JV conference championship banner in a high school. I've yet to see a freshman conference champions banner in a high school because that's part of the journey, the process to get to what we want to ultimately be. So, but it's our responsibility because if I don't tell these parents that I want my athletes swinging, and I got some kid up there swinging at a ball and it's clearly a ball, and now I got other parents upset because that's going to cost us the game. That's on me because I didn't help them reframe. Right? I didn't help them reframe what we're doing this for. That's the key at the parent meeting. You better let them know why we're doing it this way. Otherwise, you've left every parent up to decide what's important to them. And that's not fair to the parents either.
Is it fair to say I don't know if I'm overstating here, but a step to help create healthier sport is we got a bunch of parents that are asking for leadership and we're not giving it as athletic professionals, coaches. Was that a fair? They may not know they're asking, but they're asking.
Yeah, it's absolutely fair. And you know where I'll take that one step farther? We don't have organizations that are providing the training to the coaches so that they understand.
Mm.
These are parents many of the times. They're just coaching and I am so thankful for the parent coach. We don't have youth sports without it, but it's also a tough role
Mhm.
for that kid whose dad is
Yeah.
coaching, whose mom is coaching. It makes it tougher, right? But it's unfair because we're not helping them and training them. And organizationally, the the biggest problem in sport, and we will accept behavior by parents, by athletes, by coaches, by people. We'll accept and actually sometimes condone behavior in sport that would never be accepted or condoned in any other area of life because
That
sport
might
is
get you
so
sent to
emotional.
jail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And but because sport is so emotional and it's one of the most emotional venues. But the issue is the reason that happens. There's a very simple, again, I like to try to make it simple as possible. Because in sport is an us versus them endeavor. It's my team, it's our team versus that team. It's us versus them. And in an us versus them scenario, us is always the good guys. Them is the bad guys.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter who us or them is. What we need to understand is in this entire league, in these 50 teams, it's just us. It's just us. I'm coaching a dozen kids directly. Those kids on that other sideline, that's still us. It's not a bunch of thems. Right? And so
Mhm.
we need to do things to create the us scenario. I'll give you two very simple things. If we just did this, it could change it. I would say before the game, the coaches need to go out to the middle of the football field. We'll keep it football right now. Do it all of them. It's likely you don't even know who those coaches are on the other sideline. Most of the time you don't. You need to go out and meet in the middle and shake hands, introduce yourself to the other team and tell them a little bit about yourself. So now, that's not such a bad guy. Hey, we got some stuff in common. And then do you want to really change it? Then when we're out together, Rob, you're coaching the other team and you're coaching them. All right. I'm us, but we're coaching teams. We meet in the middle and we introduce, and I'm going to say to you, hey, Coach Ramsar, number 33 on our team has been really struggling. Okay. I'm going to get him into play here. And after the game, would you go over and say something to him about his effort or anything like it? Could you do that for me? And then you give me somebody. Do you know what happens now? I'm
Love it.
looking at that sideline for the person that you've told me about because I'm coaching that kid now too. I'm getting to build into that one. And then all of a sudden, that's not them anymore. That's part of us. And when you, by the way, go to 33 and say, hey, I watched you out there. That's a good effort. You hang in there, young man, because um, you could be pretty good at this, right? Right now, it doesn't matter, right? You just hang in. What you did for that kid will do more than anything I could do because you aren't
Yeah.
responsible for doing that. I kind of am it. And then I'm going to go over when I see it. I'm going to say, hey, Coach Ramsar, thank you. Man, I appreciate it. How about that kid's parents? What are they going to think? Now, look at
Mhm.
all the things we did. What I want to do is let's just be intentional. We don't have to be fancy, but let's be intentional about these things. If that's the requirement of the entire organization that I'm running, of all my teams, first we start by shaking hands with the other coaches. Second, we're going to look for opportunities to build into somebody on the other team. We'll change the culture. You know, everything changes because now not only will that change, we start doing other things. We start looking for it. I'll add one more thing. There's one responsibility for every kid every team. Is after the game they have to pick up at least one piece of trash and throw it away. We're going to leave this field better than when we came. Now, now we don't have to say anything to you. When you see one of my players pick something up, hey, 44, thanks for doing that. And I can do the same thing. Right? We now start taking sport and looking at a bigger picture, and we get to learn about other people. And when we learn about other people, they're less likely to be the enemy. All right. We change
Mhm.
our attitude when we learn about people. And there's a lots of
That
things.
that
One other thing, let me give you for parents. This is what's really important. Mom and dad, I want bad calls. I want tough situations. I want them. I want it because we have to teach our young people how to respond because that's over with. And if we don't teach them how to respond, it goes into the next 10 plays. It goes into their life. No, what we're going to do is we want these and we're going to say, all right, okay, that doesn't matter anymore. The next play matters. We're going to teach them these skills so that when there are bad calls, mom and dad already know, hey, that's what we want. It defuses that as well.
I'm gonna throw, 2 more examples that as you were talking triggered, then we're gonna wrap up, but only because I gotta be somewhere in 3 minutes, but, um, I found I've seen some teams do this, like, it's powerful of part of your routine after a game. You make kids go everybody goes and thanks the official, sees them as a person, and expresses some gratefulness to that person who's helping them be able to play the game, and then, this connects back later, but I thought of it now, but Um, I watched one of our coaches here. They do put-ups a lot, which is a big 3D thing where you publicly affirm people, and hopefully outside of just, "Hey, you were good today at this sport," or whatever. We had some coaches start taking videos and texting them to the parents or emailing them to the parents. So all of a sudden then it's about so much more than just your kid playing. Look at him and how he's respected by his peers and growing. And that was powerful. So,
Absolutely.
in terms of being proactive relationships with parents, it's a pretty awesome thing.
Yep. You've shown
So,
parents that
any final thoughts?
giving them something greater than playing time to see the impact that you're having on their kid. That is huge.
Mm, yep, yep. So, I wish it was my idea they did it, but it wasn't, or else I'd claim it because I thought it was ingenious. So, cool. Well, Mitch, we'll definitely do this again, but thanks again for taking the time.
All right, Rob. Like I say, I always appreciate when I get the opportunity to talk with you, and thank you for what you're doing with these podcasts because they are making a difference. I'm watching them, and because I've responded to you on these as well.
Yep. Mhm. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Beyond Coaching. Beyond Coaching is a podcast developed and produced by the Impactful Coaching Project with the support of Friends University. The Impactful Coaching Project seeks to develop coaches that coach the whole person and is the thought leader in coaching the 21st century athlete. The Impactful Coaching Project produces training, information, and research to help coaches improve. To see more information, go to impactfulcoachingproject.substack.com. Thank you.